Yeah, thank you for joining me. Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. We've got the glasses on. The older eyesight's getting a bit rough. I want to talk to you today about my experience with maternal discipline and the effects of that on a woman. When you go into a way in which you need to challenge a woman's children, you're pressing some buttons that are going to bring very consequential results. Now, what I've learned from being in relationships with two single mothers, three actually, but the two latter ones, is when you get a few chances, what you'll find is, and this is where things have come undone for me, the woman's children have gotten involved and they haven't pulled their weight on my territory. Now, anybody that knows me knows that if a child doesn't pull its weight, it'll get three chances and then it's shown to the door. And that's the reality of it. That's what I've done with mine. And I wouldn't say they're perfect, but they do get up and have a go. They carry themselves. So, and there's a consequence when you challenge people, and it's confronting. But I always said, and I'll say it again, confront the issue before the issue confronts you, because it will. It will jump out at you eventually. So we had the son move in. There was some complications leading up to this. We knew that he was, well, I knew and she knew that he was very lazy. He was a little bit behind. I wouldn't say he was stupid. He was quite intelligent. Nice boy. Well-mannered, gentle. And word come that he was having to move out from his dad's place and come to live with Mum. There was a bit of a history there between him and Mum. Mum had set him up as a surrogate partner. When I come along, there was a big blow-up 5 years back prior to this, where he jettisoned himself from living with his mum and went to live with his father. The father and the son colluded together and gave this woman a horrible time, a terrible time. I've never seen a woman treated like it before, but this is the ripple effect of long-term relationships breaking down. So we get word that the son is going to move in, and I was standing on the veranda and I looked out across to the mountains, and something inside me said, buckle your seatbelt, because this is going to be something else. Come to me in the spirit that it was going to be the great reunion of the mother and the son, which I felt quite happy about, to be honest. But it was also going to be a situation that would triangulate. And I tried to stay positive, but something inside me just dropped. So with all positive expectations, I welcomed the idea, because I didn't want to disappoint the lady and keep her away from her son. I was glad that there was going to be a reunion between the two, but I was also concerned by some of the things that I saw and experienced before this happened. When I first met this lady, we became familiar with one another, and I decided to make a commitment. And the commitment was established, and I moved in with her. The son was 16-year-old, 6'4", handsome boy, well-mannered, as I said. We were asleep one night and the door cracked open at about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, oh, he must be going to ask his mum something. But lo and behold, he jumped into bed beside his mum. And I wrestled with it. I thought, hang on a sec, this isn't 16-year-old, 6'4". What's he doing getting into bed with me and my mum? Me and his mum, not my mum, sorry, his mum. I wrestled with it for about 5 minutes because I was quite paralysed. I didn't know what to say or what to do. It's a true story. And I laid there for about 5 minutes, and I thought, no, I can't stay here. I can't deal with this. So I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go. So I left. When I was driving home, something inside me said, don't go back. Don't go back. But I didn't listen, did I? She rang me the next day, and I said, well, I don't understand how all that works, and I'm not sure if I want to. And she said, well, you know, it's cultural. I thought, well, how often has he been sleeping with you while you haven't had your husband and you've been on your own? I said, no, where we come from, I'd be very disappointed with my boys if they hopped into bed like that with their mother and a new boyfriend. True story. And she said, well, you know, I'll fix it. And I've gone, well, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. It's very, 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 it's making me feel very uncomfortable, and it's making me ask some questions that not sure if I want the answers to. I went back. 2 weeks later, the same thing happened. The door cracked open. I thought, he's not going to this time. Sure enough, he jumps into bed beside us, and I've gone, wow, that's defiant. That's heavy. So I decided that if it did happen again, I would fake that I was going to make love to the woman. I'd fake it. So he's got in before he's in. He's not getting, what's he doing in here? And he's got in, and I've thrown the leg over and pretended that I was going to be intimate with the mother, which I wasn't. I wouldn't be so foolish with somebody else in the bed like that. Well, there was arms and legs everywhere, and out they went. And there was a bit of a blow up, and I thought, oh, you know, I haven't signed up for this. Covert emotional incest was manifesting. Well, she sorted that out. The next day he went to live with his dad, which gave her time to herself, to experience some masculinity. Jump ahead 5 years. We got married, jump ahead 5 years, and the son moves in. Now, we had a big talk. We had a big talk before he moved in to make sure everything was going to be right. You need to do this, you need to do that. You can't do this, you can't do that. Be as part of the team and you'll be fine. Well, it lasted about a week, and it got very odd. It got very strange. I'm one of these men that I like my own space and my woman. I don't like a third person in the wheel. I wasn't raised that way. My mother always taught us to stay outside of her relationship, and that was it. Well, you get these boys that are so attached to their mothers that they won't leave them alone. That's what I've noticed with these covert emotional incest boys and mothers. The boy won't leave the mother alone. He wants her attention, like a young bird trying to get food off its mother. And I'm trying to be fair. And I've said to her, look, I really like my own space, and I feel like there's a third person in the marriage. As a matter of fact, I got to the stage where I said, I think you're married to two people, and it's too much for you. And she took offence to that. And so what started to happen was in trying to fix things, I was triggering her maternal defences. And that's a very dangerous place to go. And I said to her, I don't want to stir up any maternal defences or anything, but we've got some problems here. He's not pulling his weight, as he said he would, promised he would. You're running after him like you're his wife. I know you're his mother, and I don't mind you doing certain things, but he's got to grow. And he stopped paying his rent. Well, I started to get a bit, I let it go peacefully, and then I started to push. What would happen was he'd go to the toilet and he'd leave his skid marks in the toilet. And I'd said to the mother, if he ain't going to clean them up, you're going to have to. I'm not going to. And this went on, and he began to humiliate his mother. So I thought, hang on a sec. This person is intruding. He's not playing an active role. He's not contributing the way that he said he would. And me being me was starting to think, you're heading for the door, buddy. I don't care who you are. I'm very forthright, and I'm not scared of consequences when it comes to getting things right. Well, in the middle of this, the wife had a ovary go. She was organised to have a hysterectomy, and COVID-19 come in, and we're under all these restrictions and that, and then she had an ovary go. She got taken to hospital and got her ovary taken out, and it was pretty bad, the ovary. We saw a picture of it, and it wasn't good. She got it, but we couldn't work out why they didn't do the hysterectomy. They chose not to do the hysterectomy. Well, this was really consequential, because what had happened to my wife when she was 29, she had a terrible stroke, like a serious stroke. It took a long time to get better from, and stroke people and anaesthetic don't mix very well. So we were concerned about what the anaesthetic would do to her at this stage in her life, being 50 years old. She went and had the operation, everyone expecting them to do a hysterectomy, but they only took the ovary out, which meant that she was going to be scheduled at some point for a second operation. Well, she had the operation and she come home, and you can imagine that she was very uncomfortable. And then the daughter, who I could only describe as a bully and a toxic, happy person, for whatever reason, not attacking her, that's just the way that she was, she kept dropping off the grandchild, and the mother wasn't well. I didn't mind. That's where I stepped in and helped and played a part. And then the hospital rang up about 6 or 7 weeks later and said, you need to come in to have your hysterectomy. And again, she was dealing with a son that was humiliating her in front of me. She knew that I was starting to get to the point where he's heading for the door, which put a lot of pressure on her. She was trying to protect him maternally, yet trying to be married to me without exposing that. She was starting to, her maternal instincts were starting to go, hang on, mate, this is my son. This is what can happen, right? Me and her never had an argument up to this point, but now we've got this underlying stress. Then she goes in and she has the hysterectomy, and she comes out and she's not the same person. It was not the same woman that I married. It was horrible. The anaesthetic had done something to her mind, and only something slight, but slight enough, and probably mixed with all the pressure that was going on for her. Newly married, I'd had a serious kiteboarding accident. I was managing pretty well with that. She's had 2 major operations, not the best way to start a marriage. And now her daughter's, neither the son or the daughter even offered her a cup of tea. I don't know if you've seen Vikings, but because of my accident, I had a broken arm and a shattered ankle. I had to crawl around like that guy out of Vikings, but I did everything I could to play my part, even though I was seriously injured. I never missed a beat. And I look back, it was horrible. The daughter kept dropping off the grandchild, and the mother was not well at all. I wasn't all the best, but we managed. Then the mother said to me one night, I think my daughter's on the internet chasing other men. And I've gone, no, she sings at the church. She wouldn't do that. Well, to cut a long story short, she was. And I thought, hang on a sec, now I've got a lazy son and a woman who's supposed to be happily married out chasing other men. And they're not my children. I wouldn't tolerate it. So the daughter comes bouncing up the stairs with the grandson. Oh, here, mum's got, leaking like the woman in the Bible with female problems, and she could hardly help herself. She's trying to deal with a lazy son and an aggravated husband, and she's got the grandchild being dropped off, and she's just not well. I'd be minding the grandson. Well, this night I said to this girl, I said, I don't want to interfere with your business, but if you're on the internet chasing other men, and I don't know if your husband knows about it or not, and I don't want to stick my nose in where it don't belong, but I am going to say we can't mind your son while you're gallivanting around. If you're going to work, yeah, no worries. But not while you're gallivanting around, whatever you're entertaining yourself with other men. That's not the moral of this family. That's not how this family works. Well, she got angry. I said, stop, there's the door. And she stormed out. Never been confronted in her life. She stormed out. And I knew that this girl had the potential to cause a lot of trouble. And she did. She went to work straight away on the marriage. But she also teamed up with the son, who had resentment towards me for trying to get him to play his part in the house. So now they're working on the mother behind the scenes against me. The poor old mother, they knew when to attack. This is the thing with children. They know when to attack. And I could see things starting to deteriorate very fast. Very, very fast. Well, it got to the point where the mother and the son had ganged up on me. And she'd been a bit of her maternal instincts now were opposing me. Things deteriorated pretty quick and pretty bad. You can see it, you can imagine it, can't you? You can see how the Bible says, better to meet a bear robbed of its cubs than a fool in his foolishness. And I was asking myself, am I being wise or am I being a fool? I've met a bear and I'm stirring up its cubs and it's starting to attack me. Or am I being wise? Well, if you've got principles and standards, you need to stand by them or people will walk all over you. So, one night there was a blow up and I was tired of the arguing. And the son was hovering around the bedroom door and I've gone, mate, you need to mind your own. This is how far it can go. You need to mind your own business. Like, I'm trying to sort stuff out with your mum. There's nothing going to happen to her. What's the worst thing that could happen to her? I make her a cup of tea? Anyway, it got bad. So I've come out because he wouldn't leave the bedroom door and she's come out. And I've said, okay, what's going on? Why are you doing this? Because he was intruding into my personal life. And she's come out and they're into me and I've gone, 1, 2, there's the door. So now we've got the daughter, the wife and the son kicked out. This is what happens when you push the buttons of maternal instincts. It's dangerous. If those children don't turn around, it doesn't matter what you're doing, who you are, how well you're playing your role in the marriage. The mother by nature, whether she wants to or not, by nature will turn to protect her children. She'll be offended. She'll try not to be at first, but the longer the children are out of order and the more challenged they are to be responsible and accountable, the more the mother's going to deteriorate because they'll be covertly opposing you behind closed doors. They'll be into her. Get rid of him. And it's a terrible thing for a woman to go through. I watched it. I watched this poor woman struggle because she loved me. Well, she stayed in my bed until she left, and they left. They went to move in to a unit. Don't forget, he hadn't paid his rent for 5 weeks, and I won't tolerate that. I'm sorry. I want people to be able to go out into the world and survive and thrive. If you're not paying your rent, then you get a rude shock when you go out into the world and you need to do that. And also if you're lazy as well. So they left. It was terrible. It was horrible. But what do? Do you keep your standards and principles and try and be gracious and lenient and transparent? Or do you just watch everything going down the drain while you're trying to be kind and bend and flex to help these people develop, and the next thing you know, everything's disintegrating anyway? So you're better off, excuse me, you're better off acting really fast and getting these things resolved fast, because either way, you're going to go down, and you may as well hold your masculine frame, because people aren't going to change. When you challenge maternal instincts, there's no rules anymore. There's no rules. There's no moral integrity or anything. Everything evolves around the feelings of the children then. And once that happens, you're gone. You're gone. There's no rationale. There's no reasoning. There's no nothing. It's just maternal. And that is a very horrible place to find yourself, and it's something that I've learned. I've seen it twice now. The woman still tries to hang on, but at the end of the day, she's got to nurture her children, even if they're young adults. And this is what it was. They were young adults. And the children will work on you. They'll assassinate the partner. They'll defame the partner, they'll hound the mother, they'll work on her until she gives in. And this happened in my last relationship as well, where the 23-year-old son said to his mother, "You're neglecting me because of him." And I don't know how that was happening. I don't even know how that works, 23 years old. But they worked on her, and because he was the type of kid that would say, I don't want him coming to my birthday, or what's he doing here? I wasn't going to support him. As far as I was concerned, he was a grown man. I used to sit and listen to him talk and that, but he didn't like me because he was too attached to his mother. And that another man was around didn't suit him. So again, when I spoke about these issues, she started to withdraw. And eventually I ended up not wanting to go to her house because it can't just become too hostile and dysfunctional. The covert emotional incest was manifesting and showing itself. Her maternal, and God love these mothers, goodness. Her maternal instincts were ignited. You're only going to get hurt by hanging around that environment. They would have been working on her full time to again undermine me and destroy my character, of which I didn't appreciate. So I didn't really like those boys at the end of it. And they did say to me at the start that they didn't like middle-aged men. So why I didn't listen, I'll never know, because they meant it. And she also said that she wouldn't be probably able to meet my needs, which I didn't listen to either, because once the maternal stuff kicked in, then you get the real person on their position, and she just faded away, and I couldn't stand it. So we ended up splitting up, and then we got back together, and I said, don't let him interfere anymore, because he'd intercept when I was going to see her. But they would have been working overtime on her to get rid of me, and I remember ringing her up 3 weeks after we got back together, and she said, I'm going to be late. And I said, oh yeah. She goes, I've got to be home when the kid gets home. And this is what used to happen all the time. And I just said, no, I think that's enough for me. And she said, I thought everything was all right. Well, how could everything be all right? You can't go to her place. You wouldn't know where she was half the time. She hardly communicated. See, they withdraw. What they do is they default back to their comfortable place, their core comfortable place, which is with their children. You can't blame them for that. You've got to be aware as a man that these are the things that can happen. Now, I've been separated from the wife for 12 months now. The second lady I met 3 months after the marriage dissolved. I don't like being on my own. And she wants to come back. The wife wants to come back. She's been all paid out and all the rest of it. And goodness knows what. And she wants to come back. And I can see why men, right, lose their minds and commit harmful acts towards themselves and sometimes take their lives. Because if I wasn't aware of human nature, I wouldn't be able to understand that. How can a woman nearly ruin the whole estate? We're on a $1.5 million estate here and rising. How could she try and ruin the estate and take a payout and then want to come back? Can see, maternal nature, once it fires up, all reason and rationale goes. But over time, as time passes and their maternal instincts settle and they come back to rational, they realise that they put their mind's gone into a place that didn't match where their feminine heart was. And the consequences towards that person and their relationship are dire. I couldn't handle it. So I like to remain friends with these people that you get close to, and because there's no malice, and I don't think they understand themselves how their maternal instincts work, and I'm sure they know when they're defending their children, but when they're trying to defend their children against their partner, it must be very, very difficult for them. And when all that passes and they come out of it and they realise that their partner's gone and the children couldn't care less, that's when the rubber hits the road. That's when they should have set up now. All the first wife had to do was say, look, Colin, you need to look, whoever, you need to pull your weight. And to the daughter, you need to get your life in order. She couldn't do it. The other one with the sons, do this, do it. She couldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. There was no boundaries. There was no fortitude. So I learnt that you've got to fix these things fast. No matter what the cost is, you've got to fix them fast. Because either way, it's going to go down. Once it goes maternal, things are going down. You've got resentments and bitternesses. They're going to turn to other men. The first wife had another man within 4 weeks. I'm not sure what the ex-girlfriend's doing. She could be doing anything. I really don't care, to be honest. But these are the things that can happen to men when it comes to maternal instincts and dysfunctional children that just do not have the respect to act in a way in which is decent in blended situations. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.